there, Mark?
I'm here, Judge.
Okay. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. I'll ask Commissioner Chermak to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
States of America, which stands one nation,
Liberty and justice.
justice for all.
Thank you. The record will reflect that Sheriff McAndrew is participating via phone. He's a little under. Everybody else is present, including Commissioner DiBileo. Forgot to bring coffee for everybody.
Thank you. Thanks. Sorry, Judge.
And I will just let people know that the district attorney is anxiously awaiting a verdict in a homicide trial over at the courthouse. So if he gets up and leaves, it's for that reason. Okay. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order. I trust everybody has an opportunity to review the minutes that were sent around in advance.
I think this is mine, if you don't mind.
It is yours because it says Gary. So
All right.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the April 17 meeting.
motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes from the April meeting are approved. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on agenda items? Okay, I see no one approaching the podium, so we'll move on to the motions on the agenda. First one is a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Corrections Center as well as the prison, which were circulated earlier last week, I believe. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review them. And if so, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion to approve the current payables is approved. So we'll go to the Controller's Report. Mr. DiBileo.
Yes, Judge. Thank you. Controller's report of the prison inmate and canteen accounts as of April 2024. The Controller's Office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of March 2024 and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statement. The balance in the inmate account was $446,251.07 as of April 30th, 2024. The balance in the canteen checking account was $410,161.40 as of April 30th, 2024. In addition, as of April 30th, the canteen account also included a balance in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust investment account of $900,564.33, which earns approximately $3,767.92 per month, and which will mature in July of 2024. During the month of April 2024, $107,101.08 was paid from the canteen account for the benefit, welfare, and education of Lackawanna County inmates. And a copy of those itemized details are attached. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Controller DiBileo? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
Motion.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. DiBileo. Then we'll turn to Mr. McConaughey for your report on the Community Corrections Center.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a house arrest report for the month of April. Adult house arrest had 174 participants. Juvenile had 33. Programs revenues, house arrest had $59,774.40. Juvenile had $5,830 for a total of $65,604.40. Totals for both departments for year-to-date is $232,183.40. Programs expenses was $79,343.48. Programs completions was 43. Programs violations was 7. We still have 5 outstanding warrants for house arrest. Budget report overall, overtime's at 12%, expenses at 36%, and revenues at 34%. And that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Mr. McConaughey? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The report's approved. Thank you, Norm.
All right, have a good day.
Okay, and we'll move to the warden's report.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
The average daily population for April was 807 inmates, 640 were county inmates. We averaged 710 adult males, 8 juvenile males, and 90 adult females. And the average daily population of U.S. Marshal detainees was 167. Our overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. Staffing update, currently our correctional officer numbers break down to 171 full-time officers on shift, 5 out on workers' comp, 1 on continuous FMLA with 69 having intermittent FMLA, 2 officers on administrative leave, and 3 vacancies, full-time vacancies. It should say 182 full-time officers. I have a typo there. Budget as of April 30th, 2024, revenue was at 34% and expenses were at 35%. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there was 1 extraordinary occurrence in the month of April. On April 9th, a male inmate assaulted a correctional officer. Responding officers were able to subdue this inmate and then place him in the emergency restraint chair. The officer in question suffered some injuries but has since returned to work. The inmate has been charged with aggravated assault. PREA, there was 1 PREA investigation completed in the month of April. It was an allegation of inmate-on-inmate sexual harassment, and it was deemed unfounded, and all materials related to the allegation have been submitted to the DA's office for review. And personnel, there are several personnel matters to be discussed if the board opts to hold an executive session, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for the warden? Can we hear from Deputy Warden Norzell? She was going to follow up on a couple of things after the last meeting. And we'll just include that as part of the warden's report, so I won't get a motion on that yet.
Good afternoon, Board. Did you want me to start with some of the questions that were asked?
Yes, we received a extended email from Denise Brown, who comes to our meetings frequently, but she said she wasn't going to be here this month, so she had some questions which I related to the warden and the deputy warden, just to kind of give her a response to some of her inquiries.
Okay. So one of her first question had to do with the RFP for the medical services, which we don't really have a response to because the contract is actually with the county, not the prison. So any details regarding the contract pertaining to the RFP, the prison has no input in or control over. I don't want to say input, but it's basically under the direction, excuse me, in the jurisdiction of the county, not the prison. So I didn't really have any input pertaining to that. She was asking about why high-quality local providers such as the Wright Center wouldn't be qualified to apply. I think the requirement was that they have to have prior correctional experience as a medical provider. She had asked about how many mental health workers are currently at the prison. We have 4. 3 of them are employed by WellPath, and 1 is employed by the Lackawanna County. So we have 3 licensed professionals through WellPath, and then the licensed social worker with the county prison. And then she was asking about drug and alcohol and the process or the progress of getting a full-time drug and alcohol position in the prison from the Lackawanna, Susquehanna Office of Drug and Alcohol Programs. So that's actually in process. We had a meeting with Barbara Jerkin maybe last week or the week before, and we're hoping that maybe as soon as June, we'll have somebody full-time for the prison. Whether it's 1 person to do full-time hours or 2 separate caseworkers that will come out to the prison and be fully present in the prison to work with inmates directly on getting them into rehabs and assessed. She had asked about the steps that are in place to improve the prison's response to those in crisis and to limit the use of the emergency restraint chair. She also asked about the $5 copay to see medical and what happens if the individual doesn't have any money. So to start off with the copay question, regardless of funds, an inmate will never be turned down from seeing medical. If they don't have money, then they just don't get charged, or if they get charged and there's a negative balance on their account, but they'll never be stopped from seeing a medical professional. And actually, per policy, psychiatric visits with Dr. Malik or any type of psych-related visit is free. We don't charge for that. Right now, we have a large amount of staff that are trained as crisis intervention team members. So prior to emergency restraint chair utilization, we always have somebody on staff that meets with the individual first to try to de-escalate the individual prior to just reverting immediately to the use of force. Most of the time as well, Leah Pardusky is our main worker from WellPath. She's fantastic with our mental health population. She's always on site, it seems, when things are going on. So she meets with the people as well. She's almost always present. So also any new staff that are hired, so currently right now we have a class of new cadets. They always receive, I don't remember if it's a 1 or a 2 day, I believe it's a 1 day mental health first aid training. So we try to equip our staff as best as possible with what resources we have available to just be familiar with mental health crisis. So right now all of our counselors, sergeants, lieutenants, and captain have successfully completed CIT training. And then we've been doing it since 2017. And as I said before, we don't deny inmates care if they don't have money on their books. And then she had asked about the burden on families to purchase meals for inmates. My initial response was, it's a privilege. So it's an option and a privilege available to families so that way they can give surprises and gifts, not gifts, but, ease the burden of their loved one in prison and give them a special treat. So that's something extra that's provided and available. So I see it as that. I see it as a privilege and an extra, not necessarily as a burden. Although, anybody that has a loved one in prison, they want to take care of them and see them happy and comfortable. So if you want to provide as much as you can to somebody, then and you don't have the money, then it could be difficult. But all of our approved meals via our contract with Airmark. Airmark is our contracted food service provider. Each meal is a 2,400 calorie diet approved by a dietitian. So they are getting substantial calories, like a caloric intake. I know it's less than ideal to pay for extra food and maybe better food, but right now that's what's available. And then she had asked about the policy and procedure review that was, I believe, voted on at one time. So Warden Betti had mentioned that as of right now, we don't have any update on that. We don't know if he's reviewed or started or concluded. Excuse me. And then she had asked about the prison providing transportation to inmates following release if they don't have transportation, which does happen occasionally. And we've always provided bus tickets, whether it was local or longer distance, but we've always provided a bus ticket to those in need. And also, if somebody's leaving the facility to go to rehab, generally 99.9% of the time, probably 100% of the time, that rehab provides transportation for them. So I personally can't say that there's ever been anybody stranded on the street without transportation. And if it has happened, we wouldn't have known about it. But we would always assist in that case. And then I just want to see if I missed anything else that she's asking. She references the Delaware County Coalition for Prison Reform, and I'm not sure what for, but I believe that is, for the most part, the questions that she was asking, and I hope I answer them
Okay.
well enough for her. Is there anything else?
No, that's,
I just have one question.
Okay.
Do you have an update on, last time we had met, we talked about the classrooms and how they're being utilized or underutilized. So is there any update on that?
I don't believe so. I believe it's status quo. It's unchanged.
Okay.
We're still utilizing all of our classrooms as virtual courtrooms and other Zoom appointments and meetings. So we're still in the same boat that we're unable to use the classrooms.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
anything else, Tim? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the warden's report.
I'll make that motion.
I have a second.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to address the board?
Hi, my name's Kevin Herrick. Thank you for having me. I do the AA meetings in the county jail, and there's nothing really new to report. You know, we switched a couple days around. I mean, things are going really good. We're getting a pretty big turnout, you know, from DB and DA. We're getting about 30, 35 guys a week, which is tremendous compared to when we first started. So I feel like the word's getting out that, you know, it's a good meeting. I just gave another form to Deputy Warden Toledo for Sean Bingham to come in and start a new class, a new AA class on Tuesday nights, because I feel that there's a need for it. And we're actually trying to spread it around a little bit. I mean, we have most of the jail covered with the AA meetings, with the ones I do now. It was Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we just combine Wednesday and Saturday together. So I'm going to do both those meetings in one night, because it frees my time up a little bit. So now we're going to open up Tuesday night. You know, you know, if it gets approved, then. But otherwise, I can't say that it's going bad. It's going tremendous. The jail treats us like, you know, like $1 million, and it's good to see you back, Warden. I have no problems, but I mean, I'd like to expand it as much as I can. You know, my ultimate goal is to get in there 1 hour every day of the week. You know, I don't know if that's ever going to happen because it takes a lot to get the right people. I mean, it took me 2 years to pick a guy out to try to get in to take another class. And I'm not going to lie to you, Sean Bingham is probably about the best you're going to get to come in there and teach an AA class.
Okay. Kevin, thanks. You mentioned 35 guys. Do you have anything geared for the female population?
I don't do the females. I can if that was allowed. I never approached that, though. I never approached that. Although somebody told me the other day that the girls weren't going for AA classes. I believe the recovery bank comes in for an AA class.
I know the recovery bank is going in there as well, yeah.
You know, I have no problem trying to find a female to go in for AA classes if that's what you're looking for. I have no problem. But I'm really picky, you know, because I want this to work. I don't want it to backfire and somebody does something stupid and then the prison says, see, I told you so. So it took me a long time. You know, I don't have to worry about that with Sean. Or the guy I have coming in on Sundays. His name is Joe. So, I mean, if you want me to look around for a woman, I certainly would. I certainly will. Okay. And we'll see if we can expand it to the women. It doesn't have to be. Okay. Oh, really? Okay. All right. I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
But that's all I really have.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Anybody
guys.
have any questions for Kevin?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate what you're doing. Anybody else?
I'm here about Betti Barrows.
Hi, Bev.
Talking about getting benches in the yard and to help other people. I know you all have gotten an email from me explaining how our inmates have recreation, outdoor recreation, and it's on these. So I had this poster made up from Center City Printing, and so the public can understand what you already know. Oh, thank you. So here's Washington Avenue, the old jail, the top view of everything, a Google view of the earth. And these 4 triangles are on the ground floor, sided by 3 sides of buildings, concrete floor. As you know, recently in February, 2 exercise equipment outfits were set up for in there. And that was approved real quick, $5,000, and they're installed. They're there. I've been asking for benches. As you can see, with those, where they're located, and on concrete floor, the floors get hot in the summer. We have people that shouldn't be standing on concrete or sitting on the concrete floor in order to get some fresh air for their outdoor recreation. Please, get the benches in there. Next month, we're going to be meeting at the jail. Could we all go down? And if the benches aren't in there yet, could we wonder why? When you see this in person, these concrete areas, triangles.
Get up the canteen account.
Yeah. Bev?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no philosophical opposition to it. It's a question of security. If we can locate benches that don't present security, because some of them are made in such a way, they have hardware in them, screws, nails, that kind of thing. So we just have to make sure that it's appropriate. And if they're appropriate, we'll put them in.
Talking about made out of recycled plastic.
I understand.
Anchored into the ground.
I understand.
But the access, excuse me, the pull-up bars are fine? That they can't take apart a bar and hit somebody with that? I don't get these reasonings.
I'm just telling you, we've talked to the prison administrators about it, and they're not opposed to it either. They just have to make sure, that's all. Okay.
So when is this going to happen?
It's in process, okay? I can't tell you it's going to be tomorrow or the next day.
Okay, I
It's
brought
in the
this up in
process.
February, and now we're in the weather where they're going outside for weather. And, okay, if they can't have benches, how about bringing some of the plastic chairs down from the chapel and let those who want to take a chair out with them to the yard? How's that? No nails involved.
It's up to the people at the prison. If they deem it's fine for security purposes, then they can do it. They don't need our permission to do it.
But the board has to approve the funding.
If they're going to be acquired, we'll approve the funding, as long as the administration at the prison is satisfied with the product. There's not going to be a problem.
Did you see that exercise equipment?
Bev, I'm not going to debate with you. I'm just telling you what the process is, okay?
There was no process that day. It was presented, it was approved, it's installed.
Warden, the chairs in the chapel that Bev just mentioned, is that something you think would be okay out there?
It's something I would consider, and I would consult with
Yeah.
the security people at the jail. It's not something brought up before or thought about from my perspective.
Okay. Maybe we can look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Bev. Anybody else?
Good afternoon. My name is Phil Yavix. I'm a resident of Scranton. Probably should have gone before Bev because I don't have any fancy AVH like she had. 3 points I'd like to bring to your attention this morning. As a representative of the Pennsylvania Prison Society, 2 memos that we had shared with you by email on April 25th. Holly O'Connor had shared with you a memo about the medication distribution. When inmates are released, they currently get 3 days of medication. It's clear the best practices across the area for the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, it's a 90-day supply of mental health and life-sustaining medication, 30 days for the others. The Federal Bureau of Prisons, it's a 90-day supply. Susquehanna County recently, within the last 2 years, appointed a reentry counselor. One of the first things she did was change their 3-day policy to a 30-day policy, and saw immediate results in terms of stopping the recidivism. So the problems that arise with only a 3-day supply are obviously the people getting the medication they need. But in the memo, Holly details some of the difficulties in getting a new prescription to be able. If any of you have tried to get an appointment with a healthcare provider, you're often months out. And so it solves a whole lot of issues. One of the unseen problems was in terms of housing, because our inmates who are on medication that need to be in a recovery program, if they're not able to get their medication, they can't enter into some of the housing options. So that first issue is concerning the supply of medication when they're released. And again, it's a relatively small change to make it at least a 30-day supply, and it has a lot of potential benefits. On May 10th, I had asked Ms. Hart to share a report from the Pennsylvania Prison Society on food service in the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. The report is labeled Hungry and Malnourishment in Prison. Colleen just addressed several of the issues there. But although it's different in the local jail, the anecdotal evidence supports the 3 conclusions that the Pennsylvania Prison Society found from their survey. Food service at the prison leaves people hungry. We get that complaint constantly. Food service at the prison contributes to diet-related illness, and I think Ms. Brown has raised some of those concerns with you in the past, and that hunger forces incarcerated people to buy expensive junk food from the concession. And again, the anecdotal evidence about that is abundant. The email that was sent out, the report from the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, from the Pennsylvania Prison Society, includes information about the importance of nutrition. And so it's a long-term issue. Every prison in the country is dealing with this, but I would encourage you to give it your attention as you go forward. And finally, on behalf of the Scranton Area Ministerium, just want to again bring to your attention our concern that there be a full-time accredited chaplain available, that we are very grateful for the ministry that is being done by the 2 folks from Jubilee Ministries, 3 folks now, they have another half-time female, but it does not address all of the religious needs of our inmates, and it doesn't concern the larger administrative issues that most chaplains at most prisons take care of. So we think it would be to the benefit of the administration as well as of the inmates if a full-time chaplain could be provided. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Liz Parsons. I just wanted to follow up on some of what Deputy Warden had responded to Denise's inquiries via email. She was unaware of any review of the solitary policy, but we've been talking about that for about 1.5 years now. So is the board aware? Has the review begun?
There's been a development since the time of our last meeting where the individual that had previously agreed to undertake it told me that he's not in a position to continue on with it and proceed any further. So I've talked to the warden about that. There's a couple names that we're looking at, and we've reached out to a couple people waiting to hear back from them.
Okay, we'll keep following up on that then.
Yeah.
Another thing with the RFP, she stated that the prison doesn't have involvement in that request. It's the county. Is it the board, the commissioners? What positions at the county are responsible for that?
Well, it's the ultimate awarding of the contract is the county's responsibility. And it's a contract with the county, it's not with the prison. We're consulted on it in terms of input into the RFP.
Right.
But ultimately, it's the responsibility of the county,
Who at the county?
the commissioners.
The commissioners,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so in January, you had told us that the Wright Center did submit a bid for the last RFP, but, and that it also wasn't a requirement that they are solely a provider to correctional facilities, but based on the RFP that's out now, that is the number one requirement, is that their sole purpose is to, or their primary purpose is providing medical service to correctional facilities. So, you know, to even tie in something that Phil was saying and something that we've been talking about for a long time now is the continuity of care leaving the jail. And so somebody like Wright Center doesn't have a primary purpose of serving correctional facilities, but would like to be considered based on the bid that they submitted. And it would also alleviate the issue of future appointments, access to medication, and in turn, reduce recidivism.
My recollection of the last time around was that the Wright Center didn't submit its own standalone bid. It was partnering with one of the primary bidders. And if they want to do that again, that would be fine. We were encouraged, actually, when we saw it, because they were local, and I think they'd add a tremendous element to it. But that's my recollection. Others may differ. David's not here. David had more working knowledge with it, but I don't think anybody would.
So
have a
in that
problem.
case, would the commissioners possibly consider, and maybe we don't need an answer today, but as a follow-up for next month, consider removing the primary purpose of providing medical services to correctional facilities so that somebody like the Wright Center could be considered?
So the RFP already went out, correct?
It did.
Yeah,
And it doesn't specify that has to be their primary.
okay.
I'm looking at it right now.
I am too.
Response
As long as you receive the appropriate accreditation. And it's from the National Commission on Correctional Health Care.
Okay. And then there was a news article that came out following the last prison board meeting that the tablet time was expanded from 4 hours to 8 hours. Is that confirmed? Because there was reports from the inside that people weren't getting 8 hours of free tablet time.
I personally had the setting changed through detail, so there shouldn't be any issues.
Okay. And then one thing that came up in the last prison board meeting, Deputy Warden, you had stated that, there's 1-for-1 tablet for each incarcerated person, aside from people who are in restricted housing unit. With the mail scanned into the tablets, how are people in RHU accessing their mail if they don't have tablet access?
Our new officer prints it out for them.
Got it.
Delivers it.
Okay, thank you. And then with 4 mental health providers for over 800 individuals, are there open positions at the prison not contracted through LPATH for mental health providers? Are they just unfilled positions, or do the positions not exist?
There's one open position, substance abuse mental health supervisor.
So a total of 5 with 3 contracted through LPATH and 2 employed directly by the prison for over 800 individuals?
Yes.
Okay. Would the board consider, in the context of allowing books to come into the prison, there's a program called Books Behind Bars. It's a program that deals exclusively, usually based out of established bookstores. It deals exclusively with providing incarcerated people access to reading materials. I know that Amazon publishers are families can order them if they have the money. This would require no payment. They do it on a volunteer, free of cost basis. Would the board consider allowing Books Behind Bars to provide reading materials to incarcerated people?
We'd certainly take a look at what it is and go over it with the prison administration. And I don't see that anybody would have any objection to it if it satisfies all the considerations for the prison administration, yeah.
Okay, that would be great. I can send information over. Should I send it to the board?
Sure.
Okay. And then my last question back on the tablet. Sorry, I'm jumping around a bit. What is the free material that is accessible in that 8 hours of free tablet time?
The free profile includes meal, our adult education program, so they have access to a large quantity of educational materials and free publications. And don't believe it's used, I know it's LexisNexis, the legal resources. I think off the top of my head, that's all, just the mail and publications and.
Do you know what type of publications? Like, is it newspapers, books?
There's books, yeah,
Okay.
and then a ton of, like, Adobo is an entire education platform where they can actually do like courses almost, excuse me, and receive certificates for completing. Like, I know that inmates have done like mechanical, like automotive mechanics courses and stuff like that, and our counselors will then print out their certificates for them.
Okay. Okay, I'll send over the books behind bars information for
great.
review. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Anybody else from the public? I see no takers. Tim, did you say you have something for executive session?
Yeah, just for updating, no request to hire or anything like that, just updating on a few personnel-related matters.
Okay. You're not going to quit, are you?
No.
Okay, all right. Then we'll ask everybody to leave, and we'll have a brief executive session. Thank you. Okay, so we're back from executive session. We had a couple of personnel items to discuss, and we did that. So the next thing on the agenda is other members' business. Does anybody on the board have any other business?
I just have one thing. If we could try to get an update or an idea on these classrooms and when they're going to cease using them as a virtual courtroom, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah, I have to follow up with Judge Corbett and Judge Barres on that. Anybody else?
The mandatory overtime, is that getting any better, any improvement in that area as far as? Yeah, I had a question about the mandatory overtime and wondering if there's any improvement in that area.
I see a little bit of an improvement. The problem really right now is the combination of 3 full-time vacancies with 5 officers who are out with workers' comp. That's 8 shortages. Anytime we get close to 10, the overtime goes up because we have to fill spots. The last pay period that's listed on the overtime report that I submitted was significantly less than the previous ones. I'm hopeful that that's a good sign and that'll continue. It will get better when this class is completed and they're on shift, because that'll be 5 more officers that right now we're essentially filling those 200 hours they would put in a week. Those 5 officers are overtime hours right now. So it should improve. It might not noticeably improve because by the time they come on shift, that's going to be prime vacation season. So I'm thinking by the end of the summer, we'll see a significant improvement, I'm hoping. And I'm trying other strategies as well to try to reduce as much overtime as possible. The one thing to keep in mind is there are matters like hospital stays that we just can't account for. We don't know if somebody's going to get sick and get hospitalized, or if medical runs with a serious medical condition. Those things are all overtime. We don't have extra staffs that are scheduled on a daily basis just to pick that up. So hopefully everybody, their health is good as well, and that'll help out significantly.
Thanks for keeping an eye on that.
Yep.
Any other members? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Sheriff. We're signing off. Okay.